You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host Nesbit, and today we continue our dive into the history of Night Demon. This is Roots of the Demon Part 4. So last week we dove into Jarvis and his history with No Motiv, and Armand and his time in the band From Satellite. Well, even with these two bands coming to an end, the history of the members of Night Demon is far from complete. Here's Jarvis Leatherby.
So about a year or two before No Motiv broke up, I started a side project called Hybrid Moments. Now, this band was something that a couple really good friends of mine, Mike Mall, who was the first drummer of Black Opal, and my other buddy, Luis Alvarado, who had actually never played in a band before, started jamming in his garage. His brother, Billy Alvarado, was playing drums, and they were just kind of inspired by Misfits and horror punk stuff, and that was pretty much it. That was kind of their goal. So they wrote 4 songs, and I was over there one day, and they kind of had this like new little 4-track that they were recording on. And I can't remember which one of them asked me, but they said, go ahead and you want to sing on this? You want to throw some stuff on it? Just sing like Danzig. It's kind of like a Misfit stuff. And that's exactly what I did.
Nothing you can do it, but you find if you wanna live, go die. Whoa, if you wanna step up to be fly to the fight in the crimson sky, my cold dead hands around your neck.
That was just really cool. It was a really fun band. I mean, I've been way into the Misfits and Sam Hain and Danzig for most of my life, as we talked about in previous episodes here on the podcast. But this was really cool. Between tours with No Motiv, I mean, we found ourselves having some downtime that we didn't plan for. And we were kind of at that age where like the local bar scene was coming up, and like the local music scene had kind of shifted to that because we were over 21 now. And so playing regular gigs was a thing. And when you're in a serious touring signed act, that's not a thing where you're playing parties every weekend or you're playing at your local dive bar every weekend at home in your scene. You usually kind of do that maybe once or twice a year, play at home, I mean, and make it something kind of special, or kind of bookend it with like a tour kickoff or a coming home party or an album release, something like that. So the Hybrid Moments thing became really fun. So we decided to record these songs, and I think Mike and Luis had a falling out, or Luis had a falling out with his brother, with Billy, and that just wasn't working out. So of course I call Roger Camaro and I say, hey, since you're recording us, because he was recording that EP, I said, would you like to play drums? And he says, yeah, sure. So he was basically in the band from then on. We started to do some live shows and basically kind of just did, I think, 15 or 20 Misfits covers. We were basically a Misfits tribute band. But we had the 5-song Maryland EP, which actually had one of the songs was a cover. It was the song Hybrid Moments. So, you know, the song that we named the band after.
If you're gonna scream, scream with me. Moments like this never learn. Where do creatures wreck your face? I bring open up the door. Oh, baby, when you cry, your face is momentary. You hide your looks behind these scars. In hybrid moments, give me a moment. Give me a moment.
But the other tracks, Cold Dead Hands, Marilyn, which I wrote about Marilyn Monroe from Joe DiMaggio's perspective when they were kind of getting divorced.
Don't take those pills, they're bad for you. But you don't care like me. Yeah, he goes away fighting. Hey, I have you. Might as well have done it right. 'Cause that's the way I feel inside. Did I love you like I promised to? 'Cause you're my Maryland. You're my Maryland.
Horror Express, which I wrote about the Hammer horror movie, and Nightmare Lover, which is kind of like a 50s kind of doo-wop song. That song is basically like old school meets new school Misfits for those fans of like the Michael Graves era, which I am too. So that's what I loved about Hybrid Moments. It was a cross between old school and new school Misfits. But yeah, so we ended up just playing a lot of gigs as a Misfits tribute band in the Ventura County area, and we actually ended up going out of the area and doing some California dates with the old school punk rock band Youth Brigade. I mean, it was just a great, fun band. And what happened was, for live shows, we ended up recruiting Max McDonald from No Motiv to play second guitar. And the singer, Jeremy Palashevsky, was kind of like the hype man. Like, he dressed up as the Crimson Ghost. And he was on stage, and he's got a great singing voice, so he would sing a lot of backups. And so it was great, man. It was just a really cool thing. We used to set up TVs on stage and play like old black and white horror movies, Dracula, Night of the Living Dead. We had these like these fake stone walls behind us with these light up skulls. We had a big coffin that I used to take a blow up doll out of during the song Marilyn, and I'd bite her neck, and I had blood capsules in my mouth and stuff. So we were making a production out of it. And, you know, that's kind of like when I think of the production things that we do with Night Demon, I mean, I think that's kind of where it all started for me, doing the Hybrid Moments thing. I don't think Night Demon would take it that far. But, I mean, Rocky coming out on stage was definitely something of us having the Crimson Ghost on stage, you know, so that makes a lot of sense to me now, looking back on it. But so we ended up recording a few more cover tracks. We did London Dungeon by the Misfits, and I Turned Into a Martian, and then we did a original track called The Haunted, which came later.
My blood stains the concrete floor. I lay there helpless and wide awake. I wait for you to save my soul. There's a voice inside my head, tells me I'd be better dead. Where am I going? I don't know. Good days have come and gone. I feel there's something wrong. How have I forsaken you? When this angel pulls me down below, I feel my body slipping. When the dark
So we ended up expanding the Maryland EP, putting those 2 tracks, and then the title track, The Haunted, as the first track. Really cool song. That's what's out there. That's what you can hear now, is that 7-song record. There was another album that was recorded, just the music. I never did the vocals. There's no bass on it. So who knows? Maybe that'll see the light of day one of these days. But with everything that Night Demon has going on and all the other stuff that we've got going on, that's definitely something that we're going to have to put on hold for now. But all in all, it was a good band. And through the years, you know, we've talked about too, I think on the Halloween episode of this podcast, that Armand was playing guitar with Hybrid Moments a lot in the later days too. So, you know, but at the time it was great when No Motiv wasn't on tour. I was able to involve the entire band in this side project that I was doing, and we all had a lot of fun doing it.
So Hybrid Moments, Misfits-inspired horror punk band, started while Jarvis was in No Motiv and continuing after Jarvis's era of No Motiv ends. This Hybrid Moments stuff is pretty great. It's all available in the subscriber section on nightdemon.net if you want to hear these full tracks. So Armand John Anthony at this time, he's coming off the breakup of his band From Satellite.
Once the band From Satellite fell apart, I kind of got into the recording thing a lot more seriously. That was something that always kind of kept me going in between bands, you know, like when I didn't have a really working band, like after From Satellite, you know, I started taking the recording thing a lot more seriously, and people actually liked what I was doing. So I figured out that I could actually make some money doing this, you know, because that was the thing. I didn't really have another job. You know, I would do some odd jobs here and there. I worked at a place that Jarvis worked at that was an audio repair place, and I did deliveries, you know, taking gear to Guitar Center and picking up gear that needed to be fixed and all this kind of shit. But, you know, that wasn't my thing. I was a musician. Everybody knew me as in a band, and that was what I wanted to do. Ended up moving downstairs in this place, in this rehearsal warehouse. There was a bunch of rooms in there, and getting my own room kind of thing. Actually, it was a From Satellite room, then it had a little studio kind of, you know, separate room with the glass and all that. And that was where I was doing a lot of work out of there. So that was, again, around 2005, 2006. And that's how I met some other people that are very crucial in my life and what I do now. Aaron Orbit and Robin Ryder, who at the time had started this project.
Hello, my name's Aaron Orbit. I'm a musician from Ventura, California. The project I was in with Robin Ryder, who was in Meu Le Purr, it's called Psycho Cafe, and we've been doing that for a long time. When Pat left No Motiv is when him and Armand, they started From Satellite, which is when everyone at kind of the rehearsal place was getting closer with each other. We were recording a Psycho Cafe record or an EP that we never released, but I wanted to record it with Armand because he had the studio and other people in the band wanted to record it. I was like, fine, we did. Recorded all that stuff. And then while we were waiting, I don't know, there was just a period of not doing much when Robin wanted to asked me to write some songs, and so we started a new project. And I remember asking Armand if he'd be into recording it.
Hey, I'm Robin Ryder, and I am currently the drummer for Twin Temple. My best friend Aaron Johnson and I were looking to start a new project called Meu Le Purr, and we asked him if he would record this band for us and this record.
So we put the band together, and 3 weeks later went into the studio. And I should point out, too, that doing the first record, we'd be in there just having a blast, like just experimenting with different sounds and just being like, oh, maybe we can do that, and just kind of having fun with it.
Freedom's okay, but it's not for me.
yeah, we wound up getting together and doing it, and it came out super good, and it started a really great friendship.
So on the second record, we decided we wanted to do kind of the same thing, but just make it bigger. So there was a lot of trying new things and really getting into the studio and making a big record.
Taking supplements to ease the diet fast. Oh, pray it's gonna last. Let's live our time again. Let's live our time again. Let's live our time. Gotta go. Let's live our time. Live our time. Live our time. Gotta go.
The weird thing about it is, I think it was while we were doing that record, Lemieux all of a sudden was starting to showcase. So while we were recording, we'd be recording the record, but then having to go down to do a showcase, then come back and record until the point that Meu Le Purr signed to TVT. And when that whole deal went down, they flew Armand and myself to go out to New York to go oversee the mixing of it for the first week. I was kind of thought it was silly that we were out there because not like we really could do anything. We were watching the guy mix. I think we were both kind of taken back having the label fly us out there, and Meu Le Purr we were trying to get out of our deal with TVT because they weren't doing anything with the record. They just sat on it. And we're planning on putting it out anytime soon. So that's when we were doing these shows, we decided to get a second guitar player.
So after we actually did our second Meu Le Purr record, switching back to that, we actually as a band had decided that we really wanted Armand to join our band, and there was this bar we used to hang out at. It was pretty much the local hang, called Billy O's, and a lot of fun shows there, tons of good times, and it was our local watering hole back in the day, and we as a band, we all cornered Armand outside smoking a cigarette.
We already knew we were going to corner him. We were like, let's wait. Let's give it a couple hours. I think it might have been after the last call, too. We're like, so, you gonna play guitar or what? Anyway, he ended up doing it.
They cornered me one night, all drunk at the bar, and was like, yeah, joining the band. Fuck off. I don't care. You're doing this. And I was like, okay, fuck it. I don't have anything going on musically. Let's do it.
Well, I doubt it was intimidating, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it was intimidating in a silly kind of manner, but we were just like, hey man, you got to be in our band, and luckily he just joined right in.
This is more of a quirky, like indie kind of fucking thrashy noise rock kind of band, you know? It was fun, really like very well written, unique kind of songs, some screamy vocals here and there, and but some cool melody, and I had a lot of fun playing with them.
Goes
Guy's one hell of a guitar player. There's a funny story. I went to Warped Tour one year here in Ventura, California, and I was watching Green Day on the main stage, and they had this kid come out and play a song with them, and Billy Joe was trying to show him how to play it real quick, and he's like, I got this. He was like, kind of like, get out of my way. And the kid get on stage and just rocked the hell out of the song. And then the guy was, doing windmills. He was killing it on stage. And later in life, being friends with Armand, guess who it was? That's right, it was Armand. And no surprise at all, actually, but I had no idea who he was at the time. And boy, did I have a good laugh when I learned that story. After that, he decided that he wanted to move out and build a recording studio, and he found a great place, and we wound up building what is now known as the Captain's Quarters, and we actually did our third record there, and now he's gone on to produce so many records out of that place, just great records, and he's just such a great guy, and very fortunate to call him my friend.
As a guitar player, there is an album that I recorded with them that was meant to be the third album that never came out. One day it might.
So moving on after the breakup of No Motiv, I was pretty much just lost. This band that I had the fortune of joining and had put my entire life into at that point had just dissolved right in front of my face. And I think, without trying to place blame on those guys, it was their baby first, and they have the right to do whatever they want with their lives. But for me at that point, I had just decided, look, I can never, ever be an expendable member of a band ever again. I just can't. So I just decided, look, I feel comfortable in the role of being in the leader of a band. Doesn't mean that it's not a democracy or that I don't respect everybody else's opinion in the band. Actually, I respect their opinion more than probably most people, because I'm going to be the solid foundation. That's my goal. I'm going to be the rock. I'm going to be the guy that no matter what, we're going to have songs, we're going to tour, we're going to put out records, we're going to have a place to play. I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to show up every time. I'm going to give it my all on stage, in the studio, whatever. That's the point that I came to after No Motiv. So a quick backstory to this. This will make sense, but on one of our headlining tours that we did in the early 2000s with No Motiv, we were going to release an EP, a 4-song EP that we were only going to sell on the road, on the tour. And the EP was to consist of 4 songs, each song written and performed by an individual of the band. I think at the time, it's kind of funny, I was really into mobster movies and rockabilly music and 50s culture, and I was just really starting to gravitate towards old New York subway doo-wop and Elvis and just all this Carl Perkins, the Memphis sound, but really the doo-wop stuff. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a fucking modern classic. I'm going to write a doo-wop song. And what I'm going to do is, look, it's easy for me to play drums. Do-da-da, do-da, do-da-da, do-da, right? I could pull that off in the studio. So I'm going to do that, and I can write the bass line and play that. I can play the guitar parts, no problem. I'll sing the lead vocal, and I'll write a part like a doo-wop group. There's 3-4 guys behind me doing all this stuff. It's a singing group with a band behind it. So I successfully pulled that off, and the song was called When Our Eyes First Met.
That I'll be true. I will That's when I knew, little girl, that we were in love. Yeah, when my heart skipped a beat. Whoa, whoa, can we go back to when our eyes first met? I wanna know where.
And I actually had the idea because our drummer, Roger Camaro, had met this girl in Canada, and I think he just totally fell in love with her. And I could see kind of what he was going through on that tour and what he went through, especially that night. And that just came back to me, and I wanted to put that into words and put that into a song, and that's how that came about. So fast forward, the band breaks up, and a lot of my friends had just heard this track, and they're kind of like, hey man, this is fucking awesome. This is really cool that you did this. You should think about doing some more of this. And this becomes a recurring theme in my life where I do something for fun, and then people around me say, hey, I think you need to take another look because there's something here. So I ended up kind of getting into a little bit of a fight with my girlfriend at the time. And I wrote another song like this. This one was a much more up-tempo doo-wop feel. And it was called Baby Please Don't Let Me Go.
Whoa, please don't let me go, let me go. I never wanted to be the one to break your heart, but now I'm torn in two. I don't want to part. Oh, now baby, baby, please don't let me go, let me go. I know you're mad at me. Whoa, drinking and smoking on a Saturday night. I didn't want to be the one to cause a fight. Please, baby, please don't let me go, let me go.
So on this one, I actually had Roger play drums because I just wanted to step it up a little bit, and there was no reason that I had to be a one-man band at this point. And, you know, I just wanted to have a second song, basically. So in 2008, after, you know, I was moonlighting with a bunch of different bands, which I don't want to get into. In 2008, my goal was to do one gig with this group, and the group I called it Jeff Hershey and The Heartbeats. I had gone to a show at a bar, this bar named Billy O's that we played at a bunch, and there was a Johnny Cash tribute band playing called Big River, and the singer was amazing. He sounded just like Johnny Cash, but he had a music stand, and he wasn't really that wild. And that kind of turned me off that he always had a music stand. He didn't need it. He knew all the words. But the band was great. The band was cooking. They had an upright bass player, and a killer electric guitar player, and a great drummer. And so basically I just went up to those guys after that show and said, hey, you're my new backing band. And they're like, wait, who the fuck are you? And I said, look, I'm Jeff Hershey from No Motiv, and I'm going to do this thing called Jeff Hershey and the Heartbeats. And it's going to be like, you know, doo-wop meets rockabilly meets 50s rock and roll, and you guys are the guys. And they're like, okay, well, you know, we're like pro musicians, and we don't really, you know, we haven't heard you. And I said, it's fine, I'll pay you. And so that was the thing. I hired them on as session musicians, and I pressed that record on a 45. I just did 300 copies, and that was my goal. I wanted to play one show as Jeff Hershey and the Heartbeats and kind of bring out this alter ego, this like 50s crooner, but a bit of a wild man. And I wanted to have a smoking band that knew how to play roots rock and roll. And that was it. I wanted to do one show, and I paid them more money than I made that night. But that was okay because it was my thing. It went really well, and a lot of people came, and they were really happy. And that's how the whole Jeff Hershey and the Heartbeats thing really got cooking.
You know, with the Heartbeats, it seems strange at first that someone who grew up in metal and punk rock would do a project like this. But really, when you listen back to Jarvis's work with Hybrid Moments, you can hear he's leaning into that sound.
Every night I hope and pray that she'll come back to me. I don't know what came over me to make her disappear. So I cut off her hands and feet, left her lying.
Actually, Danzig and the Misfits always sort of had that kind of vibe to some of their songs. And actually, the Hybrid Moments album actually contains a hidden track at the very end of the album after a few minutes of silence. And I think it kind of foreshadows the Heartbeats sound that was to come.
If you're gonna scream, scream with me. Moments like this never
So maybe Jarvis was sort of leaning in this direction in the years leading up to the Heartbeats. Maybe not consciously, but the sound is there. Okay, so around this time, future Night Demon founder and ex-member of Sumerian Acts, Brent Woodward, joins the band The Fucking Wrath.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is John Crerar, former drummer of Night Demon, current drummer of Detoxy and Dad Brains, and I sing in Stalag 13, and I also sing in another band called Tight Night. I was in a band called The Fucking Wrath, and I played drums in that band. And we started as a three-piece. We all lived on the same block, and we all worked at the same record store. So we started The Fucking Wrath as like after work, fun, get stoned, let's play some stuff. And so that's how that band started.
This is Craig Kasamis, guitar player and singer for The Fucking Wrath. We were around from about 2005 to 2015. I am currently the bass player for a band called Dad Brains, an all-dad hardcore band. And I'm also the guitar player and singer for a band called Tongue, who is a newer project for me, started up in the last couple years. So how did TFW form? Around that time in 2005, myself, John, the drummer, John C., and Nick Manassian were all working at a record store in Ventura called Salzer's, a pretty famous independent record store, been around for 50 years. And we had just all actually happened to be living in the same little neighborhood here in Ventura called Montalvo. A bunch of punk rockers had started taking over this little ghetto, moving into all the cheaper apartments, you know, really just gentrifying the whole neighborhood. We had about 7 apartments of our friends there. It was a pretty wild time. At that time, I was kind of winding down my old band, Ox vs. Thunderbird. Guys were starting to go to college and starting to move away, stuff like that. So I had always had in mind that, you know, I was a huge fan of the stoner, sludge, doom stuff. And I've always been a huge fan of thrash metal, you know, your hardcore, tragedy, His Hero's Gone, stuff like that. I wanted to find a way to blend these types of music together, this stoner kind of doom stuff with this fast-paced, aggressive, gnarly hardcore. So I had a few of these songs written that basically, you know, kind of encapsulated that, trying to blend both of these genres together. That combination of really slow, heavy with very fast, gnarly, aggressive tunes. As we were working together one day, I was talking to John, and he said, you know, hey, man, I was telling him kind of about my idea, and we were just kind of joking around. He's like, well, I play drums, which John C., who, you know, was one of the original drummers for Night Demon, was also more famously known for being a singer for Missing 23rd. At the time, I had never knew that John was a drummer. So I thought, okay, well, this will be funny. You know, we kind of just decided to start messing around. We asked Nick Manassian, who's incredible bass player, been around in Ventura many years. I've been playing for a long time. So we kind of got together and just started jamming. The original idea for the fucking Wrath was to be called Lars Ulrich. And the whole goal, and this is kind of around the end of those Napster times, stuff like that, when, Metallica was suing everybody. The whole goal of the band was basically to write a few songs and then put out a 7-inch called Fuck Lars Ulrich and see if we can get it to him and see if we can get sued by him, or at least a cease and desist. And then we wanted to be able to use that cease and desist as the 7-inch cover for the next 7-inch. So just kind of build on that, and total joke, man. I mean, didn't take it serious at all. But once we started jamming, we pretty quickly realized that we really liked the songs. It encapsulated this specific time where, music was, we were just blending these two genres, which really hadn't been done that much. And the songs were killer. We started playing some shows, pretty quickly recorded a 5-song demo in that same year, played a handful of shows, and then we were off and running right about then. So like I said, us wanting to blend these two different genres of music, this aggressive, gnarly hardcore and this really, syrupy doom, sludge stoner riffs that I had. I think the two songs that we wrote originally encapsulated this pretty well. One of them was called To the Eels, very fast, gnarly, kind of His Hero's Gone, tragedy-esque song, blended with, these beautiful, like gnarly, deep, heavy stoner riffs kind of in and out. The songs are short. Most doom bands have, 15, 20-minute songs. I wanted this stuff to be short, to the point, and aggressive. So To the Eels is one. That was one of the first tracks I ever wrote. The next one that encapsulates this in the early days of the Wrath is probably Old Man in the Sea, which is another kind of gnarly, combination of those as well.
toured the East Coast a couple times, and then we started kind of getting better at what we were doing and wanted to add a second guitar player. And in comes Brent Woodward.
The way we got Brent Woodward in The Wrath was we had already been playing a few years. We had previously talked about getting a second guitar player. Myself being the singer and the only guitar player in the band, the songs are so aggressive and so gnarly. I'm a big riffs guy. I got riffs all day. I'm not a good licks guy. I'm not good at solos. I'm not good at, stuff like that. And I certainly couldn't pull it off while I was in the middle of screaming and yelling and playing 100 miles an hour. So we had talked a bunch of times about getting a second guitar player, but Ventura's musician pool is always packed. I mean, there's some of the most incredible musicians in this town, but a lot of them are always in multiple bands, and there's just really no time for a lot of people, to really kind of, unless someone drops out of a band or something. And I didn't really have anyone specific in mind until a Halloween show. There is famously in Ventura, there are cover bands that play on Halloween, and always incredible. I mean, there's been, I can't even begin to tell you the list of incredible Halloween cover bands that have played. It's been a tradition for about 20 years at this point. But Brent had just moved to town a while ago. I hadn't ever met him before. And he actually was playing guitar in a Minor Threat cover band at the time.
We do this thing every year. It's a cover band, Halloween parties, and he did a Minor Threat cover band, and I was doing a Descendants cover band. And we're like, oh yeah, we want that dude who's playing guitar in the Minor Threat band. Let's get him.
It was the first time I'd ever seen him play. And watching him play those songs, and the way at which he played, he's a left-hander, so that's cool. He had style on stage. Not only that, incredibly talented on guitar, just holding the whole thing down. He had the energy. And I literally immediately thought to myself, that's going to be the dude. This is the dude that's going to be in the Wrath. And we kind of met that night, hit it off. He's a desert rat like me. He's born in Hesperia. I was born out in Lancaster and Roseman area. So we kind of clicked on that. He had kind of told me he just moved to Ventura. And so literally like less than a week later, I asked him if he was interested in joining the Wrath, and he said, yeah.
He started coming over, jamming, eventually moved on the same block with all of us, and became a member of the fucking Wrath.
He had the demeanor for it. He had everything you'd want in a second guitar player. It literally was the easiest thing that I've ever done. I mean, just on a vibe, I chose Brent Woodward to be in my band. So pretty much immediately when Brent joined, now our world opened up. The amount of, stuff we could do together with two guitars just opened up. Not only having that second layer, I played with two full stacks most of the time, so the volume was never a problem. But when you start talking about the layers, and the depth, you kind of need that second guitar. And Brent has all the chops. He's got the licks, he's got riffs. Immediately we started writing together, and it was so cohesive that the Wrath naturally formed into this really raw, gnarly, like rough blend of hardcore and stoner metal to a very, kind of metallic, still keeping those same elements, but he added a lot of shine. He added a lot of elements that I never would have thought of. And not only that, his obsession with, the new wave of British heavy metal and those deep 70s rock riffs really kind of helped that stoner vibe that I always kind of wrote in with, kind of more, let's say, skill and ambiance that I could have never come up with. So the Wrath, over those next couple of years, we released our first album called Season of Evil. And we recorded on 666 with Roger Camaro down there at Rick Hunter's studios. And then after that, man, the songs just started morphing. They did get a little longer. They got more intricate. They got more, we got some harmonizing going. Him playing guitar second allowed me to develop my vocals a little bit more, be able to, rather than just screaming and blowing out my voice, really be able to develop what my voice can sound like live and in the studio. So the band went, and me and John, the drummer, have argued about this for many years. He always called us a punk band, and I always said we're a metal band. And when really Brent got in the band, it was the deciding factor. We turned from a gnarly, raw, hardcore band to a pretty fucking gnarly, metallic metal band.
So this band, the fucking Wrath, would prove instrumental in the formation of Night Demon. And I want to mention, if you're interested in the scene, you really should check out Craig's podcast, the Get Heavy podcast. It's like a go-to source for info on Ventura's heavy metal, punk, and hardcore scene. Both Jarvis, Armand, Roger Camaro, John Crerar, they've all been on there. There'll be a link to the show in the show notes for this episode. Definitely check it out. So that's it for this week's episode. Next week, we're going to continue this prehistory of Night Demon with more from New Liberty and their move to the West Coast, and also more from Armand and Dusty. All of this leading up to the meeting of Brent Woodward and Jarvis Leatherby and the formation of Night Demon. So check out the bonus section on nightdemon.net for full versions of all of the songs that we heard today. We have full tracks from the Hybrid Moments album, Meu Le Purr, Jeff Hershey and the Heartbeats, New Liberty. There's a Jeff Hershey and the Heartbeats photo gallery, and there's videos from all the bands we mentioned. So see you next week for the next part of the story. Until then, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time, all the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.